Hello and welcome to This is 65. My name is Erin Ackenheil, and the show today is brought to you by Blackpoint Insurance. Here at Blackpoint, we help Medicare beneficiaries learn everything about Medicare, the A's, the B's, the C's, the D's, and we help them learn this nationwide. And through this process, we meet really some amazing individuals, people who are entrepreneurs, people who are side hustlers, who are starting their encore careers, authors, motivational speakers, personal trainers. And once in a while, we get somebody who does like multiple things, like our guest today, where she is just a Jackie of all trades, so to speak. She's amazing. She does so much great work out in the community. She supports so many good causes. She also is an entrepreneur. She owns her own business. So we'll be telling you a lot about that today. And she has a Buddhist awareness practice. So I'm just excited for her to share all the details of the things that she does and what she believes in and bring all that information out to you. Bree has never been on the show before, but she is a fan of something near and dear to my heart. She's an animal lover. So I'm sure we're going to have some good talk about animals today. And the business she owns is called Claws and Paws Pet Boarding and House Sitting. And I know she's owned it for a number of years. She is taking on new clients always. And amongst other things, supporting all of her different causes, she's going to bring us this great information and tell us how to get in contact with her. So Bree, without further ado, I want to welcome you from back to age. Welcome. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much, Erin. It's really nice to finally meet you, actually. We've been talking for years.
I know. Sometimes it's all telephonic, and then I finally get to meet you and put the face to the name, which is amazing. So what a great opportunity. And I just feel like it's going to be an action-packed show today because you do it all. You're Jacqueline of all trades, so we're ready to go here. So tell me everything, Bree. Tell me your background. How did you end up in the Bay Area? How did you end up being a new Bay Area native? Right after a certain amount of years, you get to be an original.
Well, I'm East Coast and West Coast. I was born in northern New Jersey. Went to school for 2 years in Vermont. Came out here and decided to stay. And so I've been here my entire adult life, pretty much.
What did you like so much about the Bay Area? What was the draw to staying?
You know, I think there was so much going on back then in the 60s and 70s. And I was ready for a change. I was in a 4-year college program, but like I said, I had gone through 2 years, came out here. Actually, I came out because of a program as part of the college where you have to leave for 2 months and get work experience. So I actually had a very good job that I got for that and ended up coming here, staying at the job. And then my life just took off because I did end up completing a master's and a bachelor's in creative writing at the state in poetry.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So obviously you loved it out here. I've got a vibe of the time and all this amazing studying, and San Francisco was right at the vibe and the heart of all that. So you must have had an amazing time and really felt you could have an impact here, which it sounds like you did.
I think there's also something about sometimes we really have a life path. I mean, it's kind of an interesting idea of either destiny or fate or what brings you, like you're talking about, what brings us to certain situations and certain people. So I was always a seeker, and that we'll get into more when we talk about living compassion and awareness practice.
Right. Well, that's incredible. Well, I'm certainly glad you did come. And tell me a little bit. I know you've got, aside from just all these cool things that you do, I mean, you really, at the heart of everything, you have this entrepreneurial spirit, right?
Yes.
You've done so many different things. And I know your latest venture, so to speak, which has been for quite a while, is Claws and Paws Pet Boarding. And can you tell me, and house sitting, don't let me forget that. Tell me a little bit about your business, and have you always been an animal lover? Like, how did you get into this?
Yeah, well, coming back to animal lover, you know, that was a great question you asked me. And I remembered, you know, my brother and I never had pets except for a goldfish. So we never grew up with pets. But when I was little, I remembered seeing an octopus in the aquarium and reading about them. And I swear, it's like something just connected for me. And I just felt this kinship. This might sound wooky to some people, but I did feel a connection. And I think it was always in me. and it's just needing to be in the right environment and situation to bring it
Right.
out. So the fact that, yes, in fact, years and years later, because actually going back to being an entrepreneur, this is my second business. I also had a coaching business back in the 80s and 90s called Integrating Work and Self, coaching and workshops. So I had that business. This business came to me really in a great way because I was on unemployment. And those are the days, Erin, when we're talking about Craigslist and the Bay Guardian. There was no Facebook. There was none of this. There's none of it. And I was always reading the animal community group on Craigslist. And one day, so I'm unemployed. I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do next? And there was a blurb saying, great business opportunity for animal lover. And I thought, I'm an animal lover.
I've had a business. Octopus from way back when. I'm ready for action.
So when I say divine intervention, I met with the owner who was leaving the area. I bought her business, the name, the reputation, the client base, and that was 20 years ago.
Wow, so the rest is history, right? And obviously, obviously you've done a great job continuing to run the business, but you have a passion for this, right? You can't just do something for 20 years unless you're really feeling the passion.
No, it's been a gift. I mean, it's been an absolute gift. And my love and understanding of and connection to animals has certainly just gotten enormous over time.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the services that you provide. By nature, obviously pet boarding and house sitting, but just tell me a little bit about what that looks like and how you work with clients.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I do something a little different in that as far as the boarding, which is the focus of the business at this point, by the way, I just will say to your listeners, if you do need daily cat visits or dog walks, I do have people who I can, who also work with me. So we can do that. But my focus is boarding. And what's different here is I only take one animal at a time. I live in right down from the Arguello Gate to the Presidio. I'm near Golden Gate Park, but it's a great environment for a cat or a dog up to 35 pounds. And it's like mi casa su casa. This is their home. And I do like to say it's like a home. It's like a cat retreat or a dog retreat.
Basically, the cat or dog gets to go on vacation too, right? Do you give massages?
It's really embarrassing when the owners come back and the cat hides because they don't want to leave. They don't want to go home.
Like, no, Mom, I don't want to go
of course. Sometimes that happens, not always. But it's very personalized, individualized care for your particular pet. I keep up with their feeding schedule, of course, their routines. I am crazy much I make so many videos and photos. I love doing that. I'll always communicating with the owner if they want that. And they can sleep on the bed with me, dogs or cats. They can sit on the desk here when I'm working. So
they don't really want to go home back to the rules. They really do get a vacation, don't they?
Plus, I have this great balcony where I feed the birds. They see the birds with seed eating, and it gets a lot of fresh light and fresh air. So it really is a great environment here, and you can tell I'm excited about it because I love them.
I can feel your passion, and it's so amazing that people can entrust you, right, to really treat these pets like one of the family,
like one of their own. I get that kind of feedback where they will say to me, "I can relax when I go away. I don't worry," and that's such a compliment. Yeah.
And it's nice that you can do a little bit of both, right? You do this one-on-one sort of pet boarding, and then you have a team that can help and support and do kind of day trips to visit animals and do some other things, which is incredible. Exactly. So tell me a little bit about, if people want to partake in your services, right? I don't know if you have bandwidth to take on new people, and if you do, how do they best get in touch with you?
Because, it's pretty much first come, first serve. Once someone books and sends the deposit, and there is a very detailed pet profile they will fill out. That's an important document. I always have it with me when I'm with their animal. And, it's when they get on the calendar, they reserve those dates, and we just go from there. And I definitely have repeat clients. But of course, as an entrepreneur, you're always, I think, looking for new clients.
Well, that's wonderful. So how best do people reach out to you if they're interested in pet boarding or house sitting? What's the best way to reach you, Bree?
Either they can call me at 415-317-7442, or just email me directly at bree_94118 at yahoo.com.
That's
And I
wonderful.
get back to people pretty quickly, like within 48 hours, if not sooner. I'll get back to you.
That's amazing. I mean, I just can't believe you've been doing this now for 20 years. And it's kind of like you're right, you put it out in the universe and it was meant to be, right? Because a 20-year business and so forth. I was going to kind of ask you, I was just thinking about all your experiences with all these different animals and getting to know them, getting to know the people, the owners, everything through this process. Is there any experience you would point to that where an animal really surprised you with maybe their empathy or their love? Is there any example you would point to where you really felt that with them?
There are many, actually. And I just want to say one thing you just said, that not only this, I have to say I have the best clients and I've become friends with many of them. It's not a requirement, but if it happens organically, it has. The first thing I thought of when you said that, and when I was doing more of the daily visits, because at that point it was birds and rabbits and hamsters and cats and dogs, but something I knew very little, if nothing, about birds. And I remember having this little bird, and it was, of course, I'm following directions, and I was able to take the bird out of the cage. When that bird came right up and snuggled into my neck, and I was just like, yes, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I just didn't. How personable, how loving birds are. And of course they are. Once you know it, you know it. But if you don't, it's a surprise. So that was one thing.
It's so funny that you say that, Bree, because we've had our bird now for just over a year. It's Avocado. It's our Mexican green conure. And I have found the same thing. I never had a bird before. I kind of on a whim got a bird, and it's a big responsibility and a lot to learn. And we've learned a lot, but he's so loving. He comes and gives kisses and cuddles up and just we're really his person. And I've never had that experience with any kind of animal before. So it's funny that you would use that as your example. So everybody out there, take good care of the birds, right? For sure, because they're sweet as can be.
And the other thing, so many people have cats. I guess a lot of people know. I've read there are more dogs than children in San Francisco.
I believe it.
Pets are family. There's no question. And I certainly believe that. But, this idea, we get so much from our animals, and the cats, which has been a specialty, because when I bought the business, that was the previous owner's specialty. I've seen cats just be amazingly affectionate and caring. And sometimes this one point, there are some cats that you really think, okay, am I with a human or a cat? Or is there some mix here? Because they will look right at you and have a conversation. I mean, the dialogue back and forth from the cat to you. And, there is such a thing as animal communicators. So there are people who believe in that, some don't. But
that's probably, if it's not already, that's going to be your next business venture. So you got to figure that out for sure. I love it. So now I know, Bree, even in just hearing your passion here, I know animal advocacy is a big deal for you. And I know you work with several different organizations. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about the Animal Legal Defense Fund. I know that's one you work with. I didn't know a lot about them. Can you describe for our viewers and our listeners exactly what that is and how they can help?
Yeah, they're actually headquartered right up here in Cotati. They are just an amazing organization that I donate to monthly. They are attorneys who are working and successfully working at changing the laws regarding animal cruelty, animal protection here in this country. And I know notes aren't welcome so much, but I just want to say that they provide free legal assistance and training to prosecutors and law enforcement to ensure that animal victims are removed from cruelty situations and animal abusers are held accountable. And they also provide resources and opportunities to law students and professionals. And I just learned this. There's an emerging field called animal law. So
Oh,
this is
really?
all very exciting. Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
I can't tell you, I mean, I can't say enough good things about these people because it's got to be a tough job to deal with that kind of subject. And yet they are successful. And I strongly urge anybody to at least look at their website, find out about them if this interests you at all.
I'm going to direct everybody to their website here, Bree. Is this the best place to reach them? The aldf.org website. So that's the Animal Legal Defense Fund. And, you know, I feel like every day as I'm watching the news or seeing articles coming through, I mean, we're constantly hearing about animals being used in fighting or malnutrition or being abandoned. Right. I mean, how rampant do you think this problem is, and how involved do people need to be to get this to turn around?
So, you know, it's simultaneously what's happening. Of course, any amount of this kind of abuse, torture is too much. But the awareness is definitely growing on so many levels. And you said something right at the end, and I was going to address it, and it just went out of my head. Say that again. Can you remember?
I think it might have been to the effect of, you know, how big of a problem do you think this is, right? Because it feels big.
It is. The awareness is there. With social media and TikTok and all of it. I mean, you can find all kinds of groups, advocates that are working on this problem, on this issue. It does. And the fact that it does get in the news. I mean, this kind of stuff I don't think was even out there. But now it is. And so, yes, it's rampant, of course. But yes, I think simultaneously, there's so much out there now. People can help to participate in this, can support these groups. I'm just going to lead in, if I could, because it was a perfect segue to this other group I had told you about called Species, SPECIES, Species Unite. And I'm also a supporter of them, and I get their newsletter. And I woke up to the best news this morning when I got their newsletter. I am going to refer to my note because it said, the future is cruelty-free. The FDA announces a groundbreaking plan to phase out animal testing for drugs in the U.S. Talk about a high waking up to that kind of news. So they are evaluating drugs with cutting-edge technology instead of animal testing will improve drug safety and cut development times. The agency said it reveals a roadmap to increase non-animal research techniques. Hallelujah.
So
yes.
I love that.
Yes.
So, you know, so Bree, that is incredible news. So I wonder if you could do me a favor, because I feel like Animal Legal Defense Fund and Species Unite, it's going to be new for a lot of my audience members. Would you mind comparing and contrasting the organizations a little bit and what they focus on? It sounds like they're in the same area, but they have specific areas of expertise.
Well, right. And again, the Animal Legal Defense Fund is literally what it says it is. It's attorneys who are working on that level in the society to address the laws and make change. And, you know, because I do follow this kind of thing, I have seen, and it's wonderful, animal abusers, and these could be people in neighborhoods who are doing things we won't get into, but they are being brought and put in jail. I mean, they are finally being accountable. And this is kind of thing is happening. So that is a huge, that is the focus for the Animal Legal Defense Fund. And Species United is very much about recognizing the dignity and the need to respect and, of course, be caring of all species and our relationship to them. And they do a very broad overview of all kinds of cases like this, but they will talk about, you alluded to dogfighting earlier. You know, they will talk about and bring us news about interrupting and stopping those kinds of dogfighting rings. There was just a case I read about in North Carolina today from them. So they're much more broad across the map about what they're doing.
Right. Well, I feel like that you bring me a lot of hope with this, because I feel like obviously Oh, I was going to say, you bring me a lot of hope with this.
Oh, the volume just went out for me on your end.
So can you hear me now?
Huh.
Can you hear me now?
No. Can't hear. Should I come back in? Huh. Can't hear.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me better now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Should I leave and come back in?
Yeah, why don't you try that?
Okay. I can see you.
Hi, Bree. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you again. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So what I'm going to do, Bree, is we just finished off talking about Species Unite. And so I'm going to be asking about the Buddhist awareness practice next. So I'm going to do like 3 claps so the team knows to cut out our dead space, and then we'll get started. Okay, so ready, get set, go. Well, I just think it's amazing what you're doing with Species Unite. I think it's incredible work, and I'm so excited for people to go to speciesunite.com and help to donate to that cause. So anything we can do to help. So
yeah.
Now, Bree, we talked about at the beginning, you are a Jackie of all trades, right? You do so many things. You're a passionate person. You've been a lifelong entrepreneur. You've really let your spirit guide you to some extent and found some
Yeah.
great, amazing opportunities. And I know you've got a Buddhist awareness practice, and I was hoping you could share a little bit more about what that is and how you're working with clients on that.
Well, I'm not working with people on that. I have a practice. I'm not a teacher. I found, or it was brought to me, a group called Living Compassion, Transforming Lives and Ending Suffering. So there's the link, and I started to call it American Zen because I'd always been a seeker and I'd explored and always toward the Eastern spiritual practices, always. And when I found the main teacher is a woman named Sherry Huber. And when I found Living Compassion, I would, like I said, refer to it as American Zen. Why? Because I think it really, for me, I found a practice that really addresses those of us who were born in this culture with this mindset, with these kinds of conditioning, what we call conditioning of the mind and our thoughts. It just was such a direct way of addressing what we deal with within ourselves, really, and how to live, like it says, how are we going to live, how to live in a very complex, many times difficult, challenging world. So, for me, that was like 30 years ago.
Wow. So this has been a long time. So tell me a little bit about the teaching. So you're not the teacher, but you're the student.
Oh, no.
But you've been practicing for a long time.
Yeah.
It's more than a hobby. It's a lifestyle. So tell me a little bit about what it's all about. Like, how does it help you connect and be compassionate with yourself and live better? How does it work?
Well, big question, and serves a big answer. It really is on so many levels, but what it does come down to learning to what we put our attention on, what we focus on in our everyday lives is going to reflect the quality of our lives. Like, what kind of life do we want? And just at the most bottom, like, basis, a lot of people don't even know they have a choice. They have a choice about how they want their lives to be, how they want to feel, all these thoughts, all these stories in our heads. We all walk around talking to ourselves all the time. Well, what are we saying to ourselves? What kind of story, what kind of information are we saying that really directs us, really influences daily how we feel and what we do? And it is a practice. There's no question, because it's really going against the grain. And we're as humans, we're just have this conditioning. It's just the human condition. So it's quite a journey. It's quite exciting when you realize I can actually determine so much more than I think many of us ever thought we could, as far as what kind of life.
You're in a lot more control than you think you are in terms of shaping your outcome. I'm interested, Bree, is there an example that you could point to of like how you might have looked at a situation in the past, but based on this practice, how you're able to look at it a little differently?
Yeah, I mean, so many, but one of the things Sherry has said many times is there's no need for urgency. There's no need to feel compelled to immediately respond, even with outside pressure from either a group or an individual or yourself internally. Oh, I've got to make a decision right now. I've got to do this right now. And that was a big one for me that has really changed, where I just don't let that might still come up for me, but I don't let it determine what I'm going to do. And I will step back. I will take the time I feel I need to make a more focused, a more conscious choice or decision about something.
I can't even imagine how much that must reduce your stress, right? Because the urgency, I mean, we live in such a fast-paced environment, right, where people just stress themselves out over the most minor details. So the fact that you've learned that sounds amazing.
That's a perfect point. And like I said, it's a practice. It takes practice, but it does you will change. We can change in profound ways. Another thing that has been huge for me, and I don't know how this might land, but the idea of assume nothing. It might be difficult to get that, or what does that mean? Assume nothing means let's stop, or let's practice to be aware that we assume what will happen, what someone's going to say to us. If we tell ourselves, or we hold ourselves back from doing things because we'll think, oh, I can't ask for that. I can't have this kind of conversation with my friend because such and such is going to happen, or they'll be mad, or they'll say no. Well, we don't know that.
We're making all that up in our head. We're having a whole dialogue and nobody else is involved.
Exactly, Erin. It's perfect what you just said. Just stop once in a while and say, who is talking to me? Who's talking to me up here? And there's a lot of characters. There's a lot of different characters talking to us sometimes.
I feel like we all do that to some degree. So I think anything you can do to quiet that. I mean, I feel like it's almost like how you're describing it feels like you're quieting that a little bit, quieting the noise a little bit, and just kind of taking things as they are, which sounds so peaceful. I mean, have you felt that as you've gone by doing this practice for so many years, are you living in a more peaceful way?
Oh yeah, for me. Yeah, I really had issues, and I was really run rampant by a lot of things going on that I wasn't aware of. I mean, I was aware I was not happy, but this gave me a roadmap. This gives me a practice of what I can do. There are really tools you can practice with, and it's very exciting because you become alive. You can become alive in a very different way than just going through the motions and going through the routines and listening to the same story over and over again in our heads.
Again, exactly. I feel like it's kind of empowering, right? Would say it is, because you basically take all that power back, of all the demons or the people stealing the space in there, and you get to just be the stable force, and that's amazing. Sounds really empowering.
I think you're articulating it perfectly, beautifully, really. We lose so much. We give over. We're actually giving away our life energy, our life focus. And when you can start to just, and be kind to ourselves, this is the whole point. It's not, because then people can see it as, oh, I messed up. I lost years. I didn't do it right. No, none of that. That's part of the practice, to stop being so critical of oneself. That's a huge part of the practice. And that's something that takes practice, because we're all critical.
That's one that you can practice, because we're all have that inner critic, right? Don't we?
Yes. Yeah, we do.
I just think you have lived already such a full life. You have so much to give, and you've done so much work to make yourself a better, stronger person, right? You're just such a good person out there, and you have such a good energy. If you could give advice to my listeners, maybe even like, the 30 and 40-year-olds out there, what advice do you have for leading lives with meaning and purpose? Because I think that's a big part of your story. What advice would you give?
Well, it is still coming back to be kind to yourself. Can we be kind to ourselves? Because, and when we start practicing that affects everyone in our lives. It affects everything around us. It affects our pets, our energy very much. They're very intuitive. Animals pick up on how we feel. So that is saying it simply, but it is kind of the most basic thing we can do.
Yeah, well, it sounds wonderful. And so if people go to livingcompassion.org, Bree, what can they expect if they go there? Is this a way to find out how to get involved with the practice, or how does it work if they are to go to the website?
Well, synchronistically, it's Tuesday, and every Tuesday night there is it's called Open Air with Sherry Huber. It is a live 1-hour show, which anyone can tune into, and you can find that info on the website, or contact me if you can't find it, where people call in and they talk about their experiences, their concerns, their situations, their problems, and they get this. And it, to me, it's amazing. We have a living teacher. There are two teachers, Sherry Huber and Ashwini, And these are living teachers who we have available to us. And they talk. They'll just talk. Everyone gets about 5 or 6 minutes to talk about those things. And it's a wonderful show. So tonight, every Tuesday.
That sounds wonderful. Well, I'm going to have to look it up myself. And I think it's great. Everybody out there, I mean, be kind to yourself, everyone. Support yourself. And what we're putting out there, it affects everything. It affects our animals, affects our family, our friends. And most importantly, it affects ourselves. So when we're happy, everybody around us is a little happier as well. So now, Bree, I know you lead a very full life. You volunteer, you have your own business, you're passionate about livingcompassion.org. But outside of all of this, like when you're just trying to have some downtime and relax, what do you like to do for fun? What's free time for Bree like, if there is any?
I just love nature. And I'm so lucky to live, like I said, right down from the Presidio, the Arguello Gate, Land's End, Sutro Heights Park, Golden Gate Park. Or we just get in the car and we're 20 minutes away from Pacifica or Marin County. So yeah, being in nature has so many benefits, but I know it's such a connection for me. I also love conversations. I love people's stories. I love to hear people. Yes. Muriel Retsky, who was a poet and political activist, has one of my favorite quotes. She said, "The world is not made up of atoms. The world is made up of stories." And that's something I've always felt
really
that is.
That's a good one. I like that. So thank you for sharing that. So, well, I mean, you just are so diverse, and I feel like it's so fun to talk about your business, Claws and Paws Pet Boarding, and I feel like any animal who gets to be with you gets a real treat, right? Because they get to enjoy nature with you. So remind everybody, Bree, if they're interested in pet boarding or house sitting, how is best to contact you?
Well, we've got the phone number is direct to me is 415-317-7442. And then my email, BREE_94118 @yahoo.com.
Well, I feel like anybody who's pet who needs a luxury vacation, send them to Bree over at Claws and Paws, and she will give them everything they ever dreamed of. They may not want to go back home. So that's the deal there. So as we wrap here, Bree, just a couple last questions. I just thinking back, I mean, it was so interesting hearing your story, East Coast, West Coast, you're bi-coastal before bi-coastal was a thing, right? And you really did it, right? You had an extreme change in your life, and just kind of want to take you back to that time, right? When you transitioned, and that was a big move. That was a big difference. And I feel like a lot of our listeners out there, we have people of all ages. So older adults, younger adults, a lot of different people listening in. And I always like to reflect and say, okay, go back to that time, that transition point in your life. And if somebody were to give you advice and you could give yourself advice at that point, what would you have said to yourself? And what would you say to our viewers that are in that situation?
Well, one thing I was thinking was just appreciate yourself more. And when I think about talking to myself, focus more and just let yourself be thinking more about all that is positive. You're smart, you're fun, you're a kind person. Don't be so critical. Don't be so scared even, really. Right. Now that I think about it. That would be it, really. Just
right. So it sounds like it took you years of practice to get where you would have liked to have been from the get-go, right? So you had to put the work in, but that's incredible advice, and really take it to heart. So one last take-home message, Bree, like if you could have us take away, aside from everybody, please contact Bree. Give her a like, share with friends and family if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. Claws and Paws Pet Boarding and House Sitting. 415-317-7442 reaches Bree directly. She tells me she's very responsive. So please, connect with her, and you might just end up with a best friend and a place where your pet doesn't want to leave because of pet vacation. So I love it. So send us home, Bree. What's your takeaway message for everybody out there?
Just have fun too. I know it's heavy times, but lighten your load. You know, we are allowed to have still a good time and to have fun and enjoy each other. Let's do that.
That sounds wonderful, Bree. Perfect parting words. I appreciate you. You're wonderful. Thank you for sharing some of your story. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface with you. You're an incredible woman, and I'm so glad that we're going to be friends from here on out. And can't wait to have you back on the show sometime. Talk to you soon,
Thank
Bree.
you.
Later. Bye.
Bye.